All right, hey there guys, Sam here from TradeDevils.com and TradeDevils-indicators.com. Today we're looking at the anchored VWAP. Now this is, I think, an underappreciated technical tool that really, I think both swing traders and day traders here, if you're not familiar with it, if you're not using this, I think this could really add some value to your trading. So in front of me now here we have a 15-minute chart of the December ES. I'm recording this on Sunday, October 16th. We're just going to look at the most recent data. Right? As always, we never cherry pick. We never need to. So looking here at this 15-minute chart, now I have applied to it. This is the TradeDevils VWAP indicator. This is a traditional VWAP. Now, while of course we give you the capability to add the standard deviation bands on it here, it's very deliberately I've taken those off, or I've hidden them. So we can focus on traditional VWAP here. Now, of course, VWAP is very important to any day trader. It's very important to know where that is because institutions are using it. So I shouldn't assume that everybody knows what VWAP is. So let's come over to Investopedia here. So if you have even any lack of clarity as to what VWAP is, well, this is a reasonable place to come over here and read about it. So I just Googled what is VWAP. Investopedia is the top of the list. So here's the definition as to what it is. It's this would be the key point. It's important because it provides traders with pricing insight into both the trend and the value of the security. Right. Additionally, how is it used? Okay, so where's a good? Okay, here we go. So institutional buyers, including mutual funds, hedge funds, name your fund, use VWAP to help move into or out of stocks or securities or futures markets, right? Whatever the case may be, with as small an impact as possible, right? They're moving size. They don't want to disrupt the market or tip what they're doing, so they will execute over time. Therefore, when they can, institutions will try to buy below VWAP or sell above it. Often the traders that are tasked with executing whatever campaign the fund is working on, they will be evaluated based on where they get entries relative to VWAP. So it's important, and it's a measuring move and a measuring marker. And what you'll note here is that often when they can, institutions will buy below VWAP or sell above it. Right? So there is very much the reversion to the mean concept working in VWAP. Now, for a day trader here on a 15-minute chart, there will be times where you aren't going to see this as clearly. So here, I mean, obviously just a big uptrend for the day followed by a big downtrend. But note here, right, again, I'm going to assume many have seen this or know its significance, how it provides the support throughout the course of the day. Now we're heading down, resistance, resistance, resistance. Now big gap here. Now note here we get too far away from VWAP. Now one of the inherent features of the way VWAP is calculated is that it resets every 24-hour period. So we get a new level here just with the opening bar. We reset it for the day. Right? And so here, right, we close here, but we open way down here. So we're resetting it every day, right? So again, for a day trader, you have to know where it is. But say, for example, you wanted to look at something with a little more time, with a little more of a time horizon. So I've just zoomed out on a 15-minute chart here, and if you look at it here, well, is it a lot of value here? Well, okay, certainly there are places where it's adding value, but if I wanted to see what the volume weighted average price was from here to here, right, VWAP's not any help to me. Well, that's where the anchored VWAP comes in, because the anchored VWAP allows you, the trader, to set the anchor point. Now, it's most typically, if you've not used this before, you're going to want to look for anchors where you see something significant has happened in the market. So, I mean, this would be obvious, right? A significant market top here before we start this long downtrend, and this would be perhaps an area to consider. This is our new low, this being an intermediate high. All of these significant pivots would be areas where you might want to do a little exploring to see if the anchored VWAP is going to provide you any insight. So with that said, and now you having at least a resource here to go read a little bit more about it if you're not clear, let's dig in here and apply this here and I think you'll be pleasantly surprised by what you see here. So let me reset this. Now, first thing I'm going to do, let me take the traditional VWAP off, and then we'll move to an anchored VWAP. So hang on one second. Okay, so that's off. Now, the first thing to bring to your attention, if you were to, for example, trial the anchored VWAP, the first thing you have to recognize is that it will not show up in your indicators because it's a drawing tool. So you will find it here in your drawing tools, right? So we would just look down here and here. Oh, geez, let me find it here. Oh, down here. So here we go. So it's it'll come up here. You'll see it in the list of. And I happen to have, of course, I have all the TDU tools, but it will be in your list of drawing tools. Now it will not come set with a hotkey. I have set that myself over on the. Oh, here let's see if I can bring this over here. So we'll bring this over here. So if I go to tools and then I go to hotkeys, well, it's going to give me choices here of what I want to assign. So I've come down here in drawing tools and found anchored VWAP. Oh, it's in here somewhere. I found anchored VWAP and attached to it the function of Shift F7. Where anchored VWAP. Okay, so I've attached to it. I've created the hotkey of Shift F7. Okay, so what that means is that here, as I move this off here, right? So what that means is if I just want to quickly turn the cursor into my pointer for establishing my anchor, just a Shift F7 will do it. So now, typically, again, what you're going to want to do here is look for a starting point where we have a significant pivot in the market. So this being the obvious one here on the chart, let's just go ahead and do it. So I'm just going to hit Shift F7. You'll see my cursor turns into a pen. So now I'm going to put it right here on that pivot and hit click. Right, so what you'll see here now with the anchored VWAP here, I do have it set to show 1 standard deviation, 2 standard deviations, and then 3 standard deviations. So I want to see all of those because, as I mentioned earlier, there is a strong tendency for price to revert to the mean. In this case, the mean being the volume weighted average price. So from this pivot here, we can see it's incorporating all of this price action. Now look at the significance here. And you can almost see how it's being used, right? We get to 3 standard deviations. Whoop, we're back to the reversion to the mean. Here's 2 standard deviations, reversion to the mean. So you look here and say, boy, I sure would find some value in knowing when I got back to that level when I reverted to the mean, or if I've gotten too far from it. Well, it might be time to start looking for longs on the anticipation of that very phenomenon of the reversion to the mean, right? You see it happening over and over again. So if we look at that, now, well, okay, so you might say, okay, well, that's great, but I'm a day trader. Well, okay, certainly there are going to be opportunities to incorporate a 15-minute chart into perhaps your directional bias for the day. So if we were looking here, any of this price action here we're pushing, we get into the 3 standard deviations, rocket our way all the way back. Same thing with some of these extreme moves, 2 standard deviations all the way back. You'll find it's very, very consistent. So if I were to just do something simple, like say, okay, well, if I was looking at a 15-minute chart here and I wanted to, there's a gazillion examples in here. So I'll just use our measured move indicator, say, okay, well, maybe this would be helpful to me. What else would be there that might give me some conviction that this would be an opportunity here? Now, okay, so let's just turn on the measured move indicator. Now you tell me if this would be helpful to you. Right, so here, I mean, there's just some stunning examples, right? Stunning, right? I mean, to the tick, right? So you're not sure, I don't know. I say, well, okay, well, it's hitting that anchored VWAP. What else is there? Well, there's perfect 50, retrace, perfect golden zone, right? Getting these targets. We get all the way down here, all the way back here. We're in between a 50 and a golden zone. Here's a couple of more. Right, people often will comment that I spend so much time on the measured moves, and I'm just shocked that someone would say, let's focus on something else, right? I mean, every green line you see there is that algorithm hitting its target. So my assumption is if you're here watching these videos, you're looking for something to give you an edge. You're looking to improve your trading. You're looking for additional tools to add to your arsenal that would be beneficial. If you are not making the measured move as the cornerstone of your technical analysis, I don't. You'd have to show me something better. I'd love to see it if you have it. Anyway, so I mean, this should give you a fairly good idea of how this right off the bat would be beneficial to you. Again, not necessarily your next scalp, but certainly a directional bias if you're looking at a 15-minute. I mean, no day am I trading that I'm not paying attention to the 15-minute. Right? That's what the hedge funds and the institutions are working with primarily. Right? Their short-term trade is a 15-minute. So it would be wise to keep the 15-minute up, in terms of, depending on your screen real estate, but you'd want to have it somewhere because institutions are watching it all day long. So it would be valuable, and I think this might give you some insight into why you'd want to do that. And then here, just nice applications here. We say, okay, but okay, so good. I got a directional bias, but how is that going to help me with my next trade where I'm looking for, I don't know, a 5 or an 8 tick scalp and a runner? How is that helping me up here? I'm not trading off the 15-minute. Well, okay, let's acknowledge that this can be some benefit to your directional bias, and let's go down to some smaller charts here. Here let's I got some good examples here. Let's get off of the ES just for a minute here. I'm going to finish with the ES with a 2,000 tick chart and show you how a day trader would use this. But just so we've got a clear picture of the value of this. What have I got over here? So this is, here's a crude 15-minute. Okay, so we can do kind of the same thing here. I mean, obvious location for this, obvious location. So, oh God, I'm going back to early September on a 15-minute. Oh, I've got a significant pivot here. I'd be curious to see there. So I guess kind of same thing. I'm going to hit Alt F7. I'm just going to go to the lowest low I've got here. There we go. I did hit the wrong key. I hit Shift 7 instead of F7. They're right on top of each other. Okay, so here we go. So I've anchored it right here. Here's the low, right? So you note where you come down here after this little action throughout that course of the day. We go up 3 standard deviations, 3 standard deviations, right? Always reversion to the mean. So you look here. Okay, well, pretty good, right? So you're able to see where that volume weighted average price is over a sustained period of time. And we can see this process here as we go through this raging uptrend here, pushing 3 standard deviations. Note what happens here. When we get to 3 standard deviations, right, very hard to stay there. 3 standard deviations. Well, I mean, this is a pretty ripping uptrend on a 15-minute here. And looking at this, well, I can see all sorts of measured moves that are in the midst of that. But then you would note here as we get, well, let's put the measured moves on here just to give you some insight. Okay, I mean, how about here? Is this helpful? Right. Yeah, I mean, there's so many. I could digress for an hour on that. Okay, so obviously, right, as you're moving through this with that directional bias, I mean, we're at extremes from. Let me get these off of here. We're at extremes. 3 standard deviations, right, away. Right. What's the theory? Right. That we get that far away, eventually we're going to have to move back towards the meeting, the reversion to the mean, right? Even if we kick up here, oh, there's the 1 standard deviation. Oh, not right. Oh, we're coming back to the mean. So now up here, you might look and say, okay, well, this is a significant pivot up here coming down. So wouldn't we want to consider doing the same thing? Well, absolutely you would. So let's do the same thing. I've just hit Shift F7. There it is. Okay. So from this pivot down here, right? So here's 3 standard deviations, 2 standard deviations, reversion to the mean, 3 standard deviations, 3 standard deviations, reversion to the mean. Now, would that be helpful to you? I mean, day trader or not? Right? I mean, let's put the measured moves back on, right? So, how many of these do you need? Right, that's really the question. Okay, here's the swing. Here's a retrace. I'm coming back. I'm splitting the golden zone as I hit the anchored volume weighted average price. There's the target right there. Well, so how many of those do you need, right? I mean, would that be helpful to you? Well, that's only about 3,500 on that trade. Are you going to get all of that? Maybe, maybe not, right? But certainly the opportunity presents itself to. So you might look there and say, oh God, I don't know, the golden zone here, I'm not sure about that. But then you put on the anchored VWAP and now you've got a little more conviction into it. So now I've got confluence. How about this one? How about this one? Right? They're all over again. If I put it back on, you see, I mean, this is really significant. Oh, I'm going to stall right here. Okay, now that's the start of this is the start of Friday. Well, the first thing that happens on Friday is a measured move goes up and gets its target. Now straight down. So whenever we're returning to it, it's the assumption here that if I've got an established trend, so what do I have here? Lower lows, lower highs, lower lows, lower highs. I'm reverting to the mean. Where's the mean? Volume weighted average price. What happens to be there? Golden zone. Same thing, right? So that's going to be a 50 from the top. So I'm hitting, because I can tell from the size of the spread. So if I'm coming back to hit a 50, well, I get a little kicker up here, essentially a double top. Now I'm coming straight back down. So the assumption is at some point, depending on what we see on Monday, if we open lower, it's going to start to work its way back towards the mean. Reversion to the mean, right? Okay, so let's keep moving here. So let's go to something for, well, you say, hey, I'm a day trader, man. Okay, that's great, but I'm not trading off the 15-minute. Okay, we'll see. This is I use this a lot for day trading in Crude. So we can see here over the last couple of days, pretty much very typical for Crude. Down, give it all back, take it all back, give it all back, right? It's just one of the most volatile markets there is. Also incredibly technical, right? So let's not ignore that. So yeah, so when I say incredibly technical, what do I mean by that? Well, of course, what I mean by that is that the measured move algo dominates, right? Not to digress in that, but here let's get a little more data here. So we look at a couple of days again. So here, this is how I would start looking at it if I'm using this here. So all right, well, here's the most significant pivot I've got. Okay, so let's just fire it up. So first, there's a little bit of a well, this is the obvious pivot. Let's see how that will do. Here we go. Shift F7. Now you tell me. So I'm looking at this. So I'm on a 450 tick, right? Would that be helpful to me? Would that be helpful to you? Well, let's put the measured moves back on. If I can get them to come back. All right, is this going to be helpful to you? Swing, golden zone. As we come back to VWAP, to the anchored VWAP. Target, 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 target. Well, here, and it just happens again. It's again, I'm not trying to make this about the measured move, but how can you see this and not go, wow, I need to pay attention to that. So we get here, look, 3 standard deviations, 3 standard deviations. We try and get back. We can't get to the mean. Why? We run into the golden zone. Look at this. There's golden zone to target. These are within ticks. Now we start back the other way. Measured move, measured move, measured move, measured move, measured move, right? We get all the way up here, get this cluster as we consolidate. Now this is the start of the next day, right? You probably may or may not be trading there. Perhaps you've got an option spread on or some sort of a derivative position on here to take advantage of that direction without trading crude overnight. So perhaps you've got a whatever, and a put spread on, or you just bought a put, or you sold a call spread, something to give you a directional bias with the expectation of the market's moving lower. Well, okay, so here now we're on a 450 tick. Okay, right now how about let's just see if that would be any help on Friday. And again, I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to find here, but let's just pop in here and see what we get. Oh my God, I did it again. Hang on one second. There we go. So I'm just anchoring from this pivot. Now you might hear say, oh, it didn't quite make it. Oh, it's not perfect. It's not to the tick. Well, come on. Well, so if you don't have the measured move indicator here, you'd be like, oh gosh, I was expecting, I had my limit order to sell it right as it tagged it. Well, front runs are common in the market here, but why is it not getting to the VWAP? Right, so that's 65 is holding it, right? So there's an algorithm there that's sold. Now look here, we go again, 65 to the tick. So we go 65 to the tick, come down. There's actually another little mini one in here. We go down, we come 50 to the tick. There's that target. Come down, now golden zone to the target, target. Right, remember every green line that you see is that algorithm hitting its target. Swing back to a 50. Okay, so it's trying to get back to the mean, can't get there. But now, again, how many of these do you need? So let's say you're not going to get the whole thing, right? You just went to target. There's $700. Could you have added there to get another one? Lower high, lower low, right? Little kickback. So you might say, oh, wait, I got a higher high. But where are we going? We're going right to a golden zone. That's where you're expecting it to turn. 1, 2, right, second target down here, back to a 50. Again, I'm not doing anything other than showing you, right? I didn't invent this. I didn't discover it, but I sure as hell can trade it. Okay, let me pause there here, and we'll look at a couple of the markets back in one sec. This is a 10,000 tick of the NQ, right? Again, just this week's data. We're obvious point, right? Let's go ahead and get it right on that pivot. Right, 10,000 ticks, right? You tell me. Is this going to be helpful to you? What do we see here? We get to 3 standard deviations, back to the mean. 2 standard deviations, back to the mean. 2 standard deviations, back to the mean. 3 standard deviations, we're working. We can't get there, didn't get there quite. You want to bet what's there? Why it didn't get there? Oh, now we're back. Let's put the measured moves on. I mean, do you see how many, right, there's not a, damn near not a pivot here that isn't related to a measured move, right? So here, would that help you? I'm right here. I mean, here's I call this the top hat, right? This is when you see these, right? Top hat, all right, right? Top hat, right? Look at the stack of algos. They're ready to sell it. Here are all those targets down here. Well, I mean, so not going to help you? I don't know how that couldn't help you. I mean, these are some big moves, right? So you might say, well, I'm not trading the 10,000 tick chart. I'm not trading the 10,000 tick chart in the NQ, as crazy as that is. Well, do you don't? Okay, that's fine, right? So, but would this help you in terms of a directional bias? I think perhaps yes, right? And again, remember, if you're in 3 standard deviations, well, look what happens when we get here. Right now, okay, in a strong move like this, we can stay extended in oversold, for lack of a better term. We're extended here, but eventually we start working our way back. Eventually, we're going to get back to the mean. All right, so we take the measured moves off here, and you see how significant that is. Okay, so I've got those covered here. Let me go down to a trading template. This is one of my favorite trading templates here. This is probably my go-to of, it's one that I trade regularly in the ES. So here's a 2,000 tick chart, and I'll just show you some other ways you might use this. I mean, it's unbelievably technical day. If I put all the measured moves on here, you think I'm making it up, right? Most people, they won't believe it. I will put them on there, but let me just show you here. I mean, this is an obvious point here. I'm trying to show you how a day trader might use this here. So we've pinged. So here's the first test, IB low, right? If you don't know that trade, that's one you need to know. This is why you need to have the initial balance on your chart. Again, if you don't use ours, have somebody's or draw them yourself. Right? I would tell you these in addition to VWAP, most important levels on the board. So here's the first test of the IB low. There's the scalp, right? And then we get this little push here. So I thought, well, this would be a good spot. So look here. So I have this is a 21 period McGinley on this, and I've got some of our indicators below. But let's just use this pivot here because this was significant. So let's just do exactly the same thing. Shift F7. Here my cursor turns into a little pen. I'm just going to put it right there. Now let's just see how that anchored VWAP did through the rest of the day. There you go. Okay, we got a little bit past it here. There's boom to the tick. And 1 or 2 ticks here. What are we doing? We're running into the initial balance low, right? Bulls are trying to get back in. Bears are trying to keep it out. Here's to the tick. Within a couple of ticks. Now, I don't know, if this doesn't blow your mind, I don't know what does. All right, so, okay, so we start coming from a golden zone. Swing, hit the IB low. Right now we're back to this cluster here. We cluster around the anchored VWAP and the 21 McGinley. We tag the golden zone. Back to the IB. There's the VWAP and golden zone. Targets hit, multiple targets hit. Back to VWAP, golden zone, multiple targets hit. Here's one coming on the upswing, so we get a swing, hit a 50, go up, get target, run into the IB and another golden zone and the anchored VWAP. Down, golden zone again. Here's the target all the way back to VWAP, right? So reversion to the mean. You're seeing it down here on a 2,000 tick. I mean, this is... you're not going to catch all of these. Do you need to catch all of these? I mean, just something here just to that. There's 775 per contract, right? 775. Is that a hard trade to take? It shouldn't be. I'm not saying you won't have a little, nervous energy when you enter the market there. Market's going up, right? So yeah, it's counterintuitive. Oh, 775. Oh, I didn't get that one. Okay, I'm going to take the next one. What did you get here? To target, 825. These are not hard trades to take. Again, I mean, so look, with the TDI, the absolute cream of the crop signal here is when we get above here. In this case, the 68, we get outside of the Bollinger Bands. We get a hook outside, right? A little shark fin up here. You get the same thing down here. We get a little shark fin out here, and then we come right down. Well, look where we're doing that, right between a 50 and a golden zone, as we're trying to get back to here, getting back to the anchored VWAP. Again, you're not going to get all of them, right? You don't need to get all of them. Well, there's another 850, right? I mean, each one of these are about $800 swings. One of those in a single lot, most traders would call it a day. Well, it depends on your, what your daily goals are and what your account size is. But these are not hard to take. And all I've done is just gone to, well, okay, that looks like a pretty significant pivot. Let's check those. Let's check the anchored VWAP. Helpful? I seriously, I don't know how it wouldn't be helpful. Here, let's take it off and just go to the top. You're going to say, oh, well, but okay, so how do I pick that pivot? Well, it's not that hard to pick a pivot, right? Particularly on a day like this. Well, here, okay, we got a couple of picks. I would, this is pre-market here, and we've got another, look at all the measured moves here. Let me take those off because that, I know it can be distracting. So this is the first pivot. This is what sets the IB high, so I'd probably start there. Oh, Shift F7. Let's get you on there. All right. Finally did it right. Okay, now let's make the distinction here. This is traditional VWAP, right? That's traditional VWAP. I probably should have taken it off here. And this is the measured VWAP, or pardon me, the anchored VWAP. Excuse me. All right. So is this, which is more helpful to you here, right? Anchored VWAP. Here's to the tick. Here's within ticks, right? Coming from that. So if you didn't get, that's actually how I ended up with it. If we start getting too far from it here, then I would say, oh, well, let me try something here where I know we pinged it last. And that's how you end up with the second one. So if I come here and I put it on, now you see, right? So you don't have to take one off to put another one on. We were too far from this one. So it was logical to think, oh, well, let's see what the average VWAP is from here because I'm not close enough here. I'm not getting there. So perhaps there's another layer of resistance that's tied to a pivot here. I mean, you can do. There's a little trial and error. You can do the same thing here. Although here you weren't quite to the point where you weren't recognizing them. I mean, here you just was perfect. But there's no reason to not say, well, let's just check it. All right, let's put that there and see what I get. All right, again, would this be helpful to you? All right, what's there? Right, there's 975 per contract. Okay, well, let's put the measured moves on. I didn't have one here. I got a round number there. Okay, so maybe here, maybe you're looking at something like this, going, oh, it kind of looks like we're running out of steam as we get here, as we're wrestling with the anchored VWAP here. Okay, well, perhaps we get a move down here. Perhaps you just sit that one out and you wait for the next one, right, which goes right to a golden zone. So you got lots of applications for use here. And it really, I mean, for the value for the dollar, in terms of bang for the buck, that's about as good as I would prefer it over any moving average, right? I mean, if I could only pick one. Again, right? I mean, there's no reason to limit yourself, but if I could only choose between VWAP and anchored VWAP, I would use the anchored VWAP. It's got more usage. Hopefully I've demonstrated that here. Okay, so there you go. We're going to do a little promo on this, as this is the first video that I've done to introduce this indicator. So we're going to do, as we've been doing, we'll do 25% off for the first week. So this will run until the 30th of October. So anyone who's interested in this indicator, of course, you can trial it. Right? As with all of our indicators, you get 5 full trading days to work with it. So if you're intrigued here, give it a trial. Right? We'll run that special through the 30th, so you can take 25% off the purchase price. And if you want to read a little bit more about it, get you up over here. I think I've got here. So you can read a little bit more, some of the specifics of it. Some of the options, right? In terms of you don't have to fill in the colors, right? Here they are with just the VWAP. Here they are with no fill. It's up to you how you want to do them. That's just personal preference, whether you want them there or not. I actually have templates for both, right? Depending on if it's making my chart too crowded. Or one of the drawbacks here is that when you have the color coding enabled here, you can't go in and click on the chart or pull anything off, because that's on top and it won't let you do that. That's the benefit of doing something like this where you have no color fill. So if I wanted to put a measured move or whatever, a fib tool or anything, and I wanted to grab that pivot, I can do it if I don't have the color fill. I can't do it if I have the color fill. It's because of the way the layering is done in Ninja. So just to draw your attention to that, because we get comments like that often with questions about why can't I click in there. It's because of the way Ninja does the way the indicators are layered on top of price. So there you go. Okay, so there you go. If you want to trial it, just as all of our indicators, you just download it. Here you download here, you pick the ones, or of course you can demo all of our indicators. Again, it's 5 trading days, not calendar days. You make a decision, and the goal here is, of course, we want to be sure that you like the indicator, that it's useful to you, that you want to keep it. If you're not sure, that's why we give you the lease option. So you can, now if you do the lease option, you do not get the discount. That's the trade-off there, right? So if you want that 25% discount, that's on full purchase. If you want to lease your way into it, well, that's full price, but we are letting you pay it 25% at a time, and you can cancel at any time, right? So you're not stuck with an indicator you're not going to use. All right, guys, there you go. Hopefully that's helpful to you. I would be hard pressed to find someone who didn't find this useful. All right, so there you go. I think you'll get a lot of value from it. And with that, I'll wish you guys a good day and good trading.